Okay, so non-suffering. Here we go, Farah. I don't know. I've been thinking about this one a lot because I think it's one that pisses me off a lot. Like it has my whole life. When I remember the first time it really pissed me off was in college when my boyfriend, who I thought I was going to marry forever, like broke up with me and I was such a mess. And all my sorority sisters were like, and I know you're in pain, but like you don't have to suffer like this. And I was just like, I don't know how not to. Like I think it's easy to get stuck in, right?
For sure, for sure. I think my first experience with that was also through heartbreak. And it was funny, like I was reading something and it was like you never feel anything unless it happens to you or someone that's close to you.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes you have to zoom out a little bit and be like, oh wait, like the whole world is kind of sitting in suffering and pain, and then we only feel it when it relates to us. And like that's part of it, right? Like for us to feel what others feel, maybe.
That makes sense about why the shamanic medicine wheel and the practices like help in general because I always joke that like I always have to learn my own lesson, like nobody can teach me anything. And then I joke that none of you guys really listen to me, even though I'm trying to tell you like I've been there, I've gone through it, this is the way through it. And nobody actually listens. Like we all have to climb our own mountain, so to speak, right? But I think that's why these principles and religion or spirituality in general can help us to like I think that's what helps us get that broader view because it's listening to the wisdom of others or spirit, whatever way you want to look at it, right?
Yeah.
It's like learn it all of these practices are just people teaching us what's worked for them basically.
Yeah.
Whether you believe it came from spirit or creator or God or Allah or whatever, right? I mean like that's all we're really talking about, right?
Yeah.
Versus just being like, no, I'm just going to suffer through by myself. So that's maybe circling back to this, right? Like, I'm just going to bury my own fucking head in the sand. I don't give a fuck about the medicine wheel or a moon ceremony or healthy eating or whatever. I'm just going to fucking put my head in the sand and do what I feel because I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. And I think for me that was the first thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to hide and I didn't want to talk to anyone. I ran away. It was just this thing. I was afraid to for the thing that I was feeling and the suffering that I was going through. Um, so we have to fight that instinct, and I I want to heal and I want to live without this suffering.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, Junie was completely interrupting you. But I know, like that is it's resisting the feeling. So I guess that leads us to talking about it. And anyone that's like even follows me on social media or does this work that you're doing or goes through the shamanic medicine wheel, it's our commitment to being like, okay, we don't want to suffer. So it kind of makes sense that this is the first practice of the South, which is where we usually start off when we learn the directions in shamanism, right?
Yeah,
What's that phrase? So like I keep pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And so I know for me, like you said, it's like you get so sick and tired of feeling sick and tired that you finally are like, all right, I'm in pain right now, but I'm not gonna make it worse by like, I don't know, for me, it's like I'm not gonna make it worse for by drinking. I'm not gonna make it worse by going on Tinder and meeting a bunch of boys that I don't care about. I'm not gonna make it worse by gossiping, or I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? Like it's just all the stuff we go to, whatever our drug of choice is.
yeah. And I think a lot of that advice also comes from people around where like the first instinct they have is when you're going through something is to kind of get over it and go to the next thing. But I still think that we can understand that, okay, I'm feeling this way right now, but things will get better. And it's okay to feel what I'm gonna feel, and I don't have to other methods to remove that feeling because maybe my body needs this. Maybe I need to go through this for my own growth.
Yeah, like pain is transformational, right? That's what we're talking about. I know people hate that, and I hate that phrase, like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And certainly when you're really struggling in the thick of it, I was kind of there last night. I was texting my friend Anna because she's an astrologist, and I was just like, what is in my fucking chart that is making me like this right now? Like I wanted to know. And she was mirroring back a lot of this that I already knew, like, as any good intuitive does. It's never a big aha. It's like, yeah, okay, I fucking knew that. I wanted it to be something easier. So it's like, well, okay, you just have, like, this is what you do, and use this pain to transmute it and learn and then make these choices. And then you don't have to suffer anymore. And
Yeah,
it's like, oh, I wanted it to be easier than that.
it's always not. But I think I can relate this. So I've been doing a little bit of research about what Islam says on suffering.
Yes, I want to hear it because I know nothing but the tiny bit of research that I did to write the blog post in preparation for this.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, I'm Muslim, but I didn't grow up practicing Islam. A part of that was because I was traumatized from some of my teachers in school. And so when I found um, shamanism and spirituality, I'm now trying to relate that back to Islam because I feel like there's a lot of common themes there, as with
Mm.
all religion. And so I um, was listening to this lecture by Dr. Omar Sulaiman. And he does talk about the Prophet Muhammad during this, saying that how he felt pain and he felt loss, but he didn't question why, because God has assured him of something, which is peace in the afterlife. So the hereafter, he's promised of that. So although he did feel the pain and he did feel the suffering, his first thought was not why, but it was like, okay, I can feel this pain, I can feel this loss, I can feel this poverty, but I won't question why I'm experiencing all these things. I'm just trusting in God. And so I think there is a big theme in shamanism as well, where it's like you have to have faith in the unknown and the things that you can't see because Creator has a bigger plan for all of us that we may not understand. And so it just reiterated for me the importance of faith in the unknown and that we can't control things, and when we can't, like, we don't have to question why all the time because some things we just don't know, and we need to accept that as a fundamental truth. We don't know why everything happens. So
Yeah. I think, and Christianity's almost the same as that. Like, that was what was so crazy when I was researching this. Like, literally, it's, I think there's a lot of talk too. We can circle back to this, but there's a lot of talk too about like, in Christianity about like your reward is in heaven. So it's like after you die, which never really resonated to me. I don't know, whatever. Like I get it, but I think but it's the same thing about like don't question why. I think this is where and shamanism though, okay, so in religion we're just like for both Islam and Christianity we're just supposed to like give it up to God, like basically.
yeah.
But shamanism, we have this sense of control and power in sourcing from a vision. And this is where it fucks with me a little, and I don't know what I believe.
So he also kind of touches upon this. So I was like, okay, when I was listening to that lecture, I was like,
Mhm.
okay, so what, do we just do nothing? Like, is that the point? And then he suddenly says, once you accept that there are some things that you cannot understand why, and you just trust that it's with God, it's you need to trust in his wisdom. God has also put each and every one of us here as an agent of change.
Mm.
So there are some things that you can change. And for example, maybe you can't save every child, but there is something you can do to help one child. And you never know what like the ripple effect of that will be. And so we all talk like about corruption. We all talk about all of these things that are happening around us. And it's like they exist because collectively we allow them to exist and we're not doing anything to stop that, but we do have the power to change that in some way. So it's not that we can just live without purpose and do nothing and then we'll be taken care of. It's like it's we have to do something about the things that we can do and the things that we can see and feel, and like that's kind of where we come in and co-create. It's us understanding what we can change and what we just can't.
I love that. And you know what's funny? I'm laughing because I used to teach this in a certain way. How I used to say it on live is like, okay, so your dusty ex or your failed talking stage doesn't want to talk to you and you feel like that's what you're supposed to be doing and you're in pain. Instead of suffering by pining after them, look around and see what in your purview, what in your immediate realm of living space right now requires your immediate attention. Well, my dog needs to go for a walk. Well, there's a work project I need to finish. Oh, I was gonna start training for a marathon. Like whatever the fuck it is that you can do, focus on that first and then your opportunities kind of come to you. Like I think that in the dating realm is kind of like a great way to exemplify that like you can be in pain but you don't have to suffer because what you're saying, bring it back to like what that teaching, the Islam teaching was, which mirrors shamanism and Christianity, is just like, yeah, like when we spend all this time pining after what we can't change, we suffer versus finding the opportunities where we can make an impact with our gifts by shining our light.
Yeah, it's basically saying like just stop thinking about what other people are not doing and like focus on the things that you can do. And I think I also suffer from this where I'm like, okay, today I have to work, I have to do this, I have to do that, and then I'm just sitting there paralyzed by fear or like the thoughts of someone is consuming me and I don't know what to do with that. But I do know I'm not supposed to sit there and do that the whole day. Like, fine, if I want to take 5 minutes, 10 minutes of my day to sit and think about it and feel the pain that I'm feeling, then I can. But that shouldn't be my whole day. I need to get up and do something else. And preferably something that will help someone else or the community or yourself in some way.
Yeah, and that's where Christianity, and so that's like so for anyone that doesn't know this about me, I guess I think there's so many different ways to do every religion, literally. And I think one thing Farah and I are in agreement on, especially that they even teach us in the medicine wheel, is that one of the best things about spirituality that you can do is take little bits and pieces of everything that makes sense to you to create your own belief system or ethos. I think Farah and I have both learned that like starting with the people that you share DNA with, the teachings and beliefs that your DNA is rooted in is a great place to start. Like I think so. Like I mean, Peruvian shamanism has been impactful for both of us, but I've never been like, yeah, this is my shit. Like I need to go to Machu Picchu. I think for me, it's like, okay, these are great tools, and now I want to bring it back to learn about like Italian folk magic from my Sicilian traditions of like working with breaking the evil eye. And then I want to bring it back to like progressive ELCA Lutheran, like Scandinavian, real Jesus based Christianity. So like for me, that's kind of where I'm at right now, right? Like the mix of like Italian nanas shamanism and like old Norwegian and Swedish men standing in a very modern looking church. But I think so for me Christianity is Jesus based. It's not like literal Bible translations and like saying, because that's where we get a little wonky and we start to think like it's wrong to be gay, it's wrong to this, it's wrong, it's not wrong to it get when we get a little literal. It's so I like to focus on Jesus's teachings specifically, and like I really like that a Bible Project app, and because they do the same thing. The guy has a PhD in Semitic languages, which if nobody knows, like the Bible was first written in Hebrew and then initially translated into Greek because during Jesus's life, that whole area was under Greco-Roman rule. So people who grew up, who became rabbis and then got higher education in Semitic languages, which include Greek, and were able to understand the translations well enough to teach us what they were really saying versus mistranslated, and looking at all the translations. So I just want to share that in case anyone's like, oh, Christianity, yuck. Because yeah, I think churches are fucking problematic in all religions. So I'm just throwing that out there because I don't want to further trigger anyone that has a lot of religious trauma. But for me, if I look at the Sermon on the Mount, is where like Jesus came and talked to people And we're like, hey, knock it off. Here's what you're doing wrong. Okay, like during his time. So that's where we get his direct words. And then a lot of teachings support it. But one of the main themes here that like ties into all this for me, when we learn shamanism from Jose Luis Herrera, he talks about the Peruvian concept of Aini and being in right relationship with God, creator, spirit, ourselves, and each other. And that he teaches that like when you don't have that, and Aini is right relationship with all things. And when you don't have that in shamanism, you incur karmic debt. And when you do have it, you clear karmic debt, right? So like that's kind of like the driving force in shamanism to be a good person. And there are times in my life where I definitely want to do some fuck shit and I don't, just because I'm just like, I don't want any more karma. I can't deal with it. I'm gonna have to pay for this. And they teach it that the more you understand that this is how this works, the more swiftly you get your karma. Instead of like the next lifetime, it'll be like this one. In my family, we've always believed this. In my Italian family, we call this God smacks. So like if I would be picking on my brother and then I get up to go get a glass of water, I trip and stub my toe, and we're like, that's. But so Jesus literally talks in the Beatitudes, in the Sermon on the Mount, about that exact same principle of being in right relationship with all people and yourself. And I think that's a big one to chew on, even like, what is right relationship? And sometimes we're suffering because it's painful to find out that you were not in right relationship with someone, one-sided, or both of you were wrong. And then it's that suffering where we sit in it and we try to lean into something that wasn't it. I mean, it can be multifaceted, where it's like it can make you not be in relationship with yourself or others, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think a part of that is we try to understand it instead of accepting that maybe we weren't in right relationship, and then this
Yes.
deciding if it's something that we can correct or if it's something that we just can't. And I think this is where the practice of like walking this earth with intent and like good intent comes in. Because once you start doing that, then everything around you kind of starts to fall into place, and you're not really focusing on the why something didn't work out or why this relationship failed. But yeah, I think
So we're not supposed to analyze psychological profiles and attachment styles to try to diagnose someone instead of just accepting.
basically.
I know. It is, but I know those things keep us in our suffering. I do find a lot more relief when I try to say, so I try to say a little prayer, and I've been doing this and it does help, because I think I went through like when I was healing my abandonment wound, like I just kept fucking putting myself in the same situation over and over, and I kept getting left supposedly, by these people, when really it was like I was realizing they weren't a good fit and doing the right thing and staying in right relationship and being a secure person. So it was weeding them out quickly. And that's what dating is. And so, but I was looking at it from this victim mentality of like, everyone's leaving me. So anyway, when I was going through this, I just kept praying and saying, you know, remind me that I was okay before this person came into my life, and I'll be okay after they leave. And what that whole little prayer of like, creator, please take whatever's not meant for me out of my life swiftly, so that the things that are for me I can focus on instead. And like when you do that little prayer meditation, to whomever, whatever you think it needs to be, say it to your dog if it helps, if you don't believe anything more than that. But like it does make a difference. Just a reminder, just the act of reminding yourself through prayer.
Yeah, it does. I think mine is a little bit different because I'm still working on that attachment wound. But mine is, I just feel that I understand, like, if they're supposed to be in my life, they will be no matter what. There's nothing anyone can
Yeah.
do to mess that up. And that brings,
Yeah.
because if they're not in my life right now, maybe one day they will be, and that's cool and that's great. And maybe one day they won't be, but that just means that they were just not meant to be there. And if they're meant to be there, nothing will stop it, like nothing. So that brings
Yeah.
a lot of comfort, but it's still doesn't stop me from questioning why things happened. And I think that's one thing that I'm trying to stop doing. I think it's in my nature to question why all the time. And it just adds to the suffering. And we don't need that.
Yeah, like the key principles I wrote it in my decked out divination class is embrace healing and let go of pain. Recognize that suffering is optional and actively work towards releasing it through mindfulness and self compassion. And so, like, I think that's what you're saying. Like, sometimes I get addicted to the pain, and I know I've got a little bit of masochistic, like, tendencies. I think anyone who has this many tattoos or has had any struggles with addiction definitely has a little bit of masochism in them, you know? And I think it's just like the non-suffering is also like, do you want to keep, how much do you dislike yourself that you want to keep sitting in this, like, and being addicted to that pain? I mean, I was there again yesterday where I was in a pity party for myself, and I think it's okay to go there for a moment.
Yeah, for sure. You can't judge yourself for going that way because emotions are gonna come up. It's normal. And I think like we start to shame people for doing that a year after or 2 years after, but it's like, no, it's okay. Like this is coming up for you right now and accept that and feel what you need to feel. Like it's totally okay. And but just as long as you have the tools to like move through it and be like and try to put it behind you or at least shove it in a little container for a little.
Well, and yeah, that's why we always talk about, when I talk with you in our sessions, I always remind all of you guys about like the act of containment is the work, right? So like I always like, for anyone that hasn't heard this before, I say it on live all the time too. I was taught to do this in EMDR trauma informed therapy, by the way. But I think this is so helpful of like when you have these sad, so like I'll use me as an example. Yesterday, I was in a lot of pain. I don't even remember what I was so upset about. Oh, I was in a lot of pain because I was worried about my future. I felt like a loser. Felt like I don't know how I'm supposed to help people with my work. Like I don't know my career purpose. My weight is up. I can't this is just me yesterday. I can't keep a relationship. Like this is just the way I'm looking at it. It doesn't mean these things were true, but so like I'm just gonna die alone like a loser, right? So I was in this painful place, and a couple of my best friends I was talking to were like, those things aren't true. And like, let's, and I'm like, I don't care. That's how I feel right now. And I was clinging to it for dear life. So had I stopped for a second in my crying and hiding under a blanket in my bed rot, and use the tools, I would have envisioned a container and with breath and intention move those slots in there. So for me personally, so when I say envision a container, like it can be a box, it can be like a big dumpster out in the driveway, like those ones that they come and you throw clean stuff out and they take it away. It can be anything. So for me, anyone that's learned how to journey to your place of power, that's a place you start out in shamanism before you journey to the lower or upper worlds. It's a place you've been in real life that's outdoors in nature. And my one of mine, you end up having more than one the longer you do the work, but the one of mine is my childhood lake house. And so there were these huge stairs that went up to the house. There was probably like 200 stairs up a bluff. I don't know, more than that, I don't know numbers, but and so it was cumbersome to get up and down them. So my grandpa, us kids would just be down on the pier swimming in the lake all day during summer, and no adults because it was the 80s and parents didn't watch us then. But so my grandpa would take like an old timey Coleman cooler, like and put the cooler on the by the back by the land at the end of the pier for us with like I don't know what was in there, water, juice boxes, in case we got thirsty, because you could, you know. And it was always just sitting there, and it had his initials written on it, and I can see it clear as day. And for some reason, that is my container and my place of power. So whenever I remember him going and opening it, it was like you push the button on the side and roll it back. And so whenever I need to let go of something, I close my eyes and I'm in that place of power, and I'm in the lake as a little girl usually. And then I imagine my grandpa standing there opening the cooler, and I take these thoughts like, okay, I'm a fucking loser, and I take them and find them in my body with breath and intention, and then I blow them into that cooler, and I keep doing it. So like, all right, I don't know if I should go back to finance or if I should keep doing this business to help people. Like, what if nobody fucking cares? What if I'm too mentally ill to help other people? Like, and everything one by one, I just keep breathing and moving it in there until it feels like it's good and it's out. And then he closes it for me and he walks away. So you can call on the ancestors or whatever to help you with it too. But like, if when I stop to do that every time, it does work.
Yeah,
I-
we know it works. Like it's the one thing that works. Yesterday, I also had one of these nights where I was crying about her, and like I felt so bad that I didn't know what to do, and I just sat there and I'm like, okay, I think the tears are coming. I'm just gonna let them come,
yeah.
and we'll see if I feel better after that. And you do feel better because I guess you're removing all of that hucha in your body.
Yeah.
And and it's like, okay, once that was out, I was able to fall asleep. But yeah, the tools work.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, in Peruvian hucha and Peruvian shamanism is the heavy, dense, yucky energy that gets stuck in our chakras that blocks us and makes us feel like this. So like the whole point of shamanic healing sessions, and are to move that hucha. And you can do it on your own. A good shaman's just like a good energetic plumber. We just get it all moving for you so you can release. And then you release with breath and intention, just like I was saying, and just like Farah was saying. And tears are part of that too. So we do know it works. I think, and then that's funny because like I was so out of sorts yesterday, and then like today I'm better. But yeah, I did cry. I did take time. I rested. I did things to make myself feel better. Like I took my son to the local cultural arts museum and we looked at like a Lego exhibit. Like you get up and you go for a walk. You do all the lame shit that like the toxic version of you would have made fun of you for doing.
I that for me is touching grass. I say this to you all the time. Don't worry, I went outside and grass.
Yeah.
I just I just go to a park nearby and I lay there for a few minutes or sometimes it's longer, and it makes me feel better. It makes me feel more grounded, and I feel like I can at least move through the day versus
Yes.
just sitting paralyzed at home doing nothing.
Yeah, and I know like my other teacher Amy always said like get outside, move your body, give that energy back to nature. So like just letting it be stagnant by laying around really hurts too, and it can manifest into physical shit too if you're just laying around all the time. So like yeah, there's a time I get that. Like I kind of have that. I don't know if it's all the Libra in me, but like I'm a nap queen. I feel the most safe under a blanket and like um but I do force myself to at least go get up and move, or like even when I'm sitting on the couch doing nothing, like now I've been trying to at least do like chair yoga while I'm sitting on the couch, or like the somatic, because you gotta keep that stuff moving or it will like it'll manifest over time into physical stuff. That's what, and I can say this as a 44-year-old, like all the shit that people are like, oh, it sucks getting older, all the aches and pains. When I was doing yoga every day, my body felt just as, and this was just like 2 years ago, as in good of shape as it did at 18. Like all of that feeling the aches and pains of getting older is just not moving the hucha or the denser heavy energy out of your body daily.
Yeah. And I think yoga is also pretty important for like heart opening or just in general heart chakra.
Well, it works with all of them. Yeah, all the different poses work with all of them, and it's the same thing. Yoga is the breath work. Um, it's the breath piece and the physical. So the combination of the physical movements and the breathing are what move the energy through your chakras. I have a friend who she did Thai massage before she went through the medicine wheel, but she does an integration of like, because Thai massage is just someone doing yoga to your body for you. That's all it is. I'm like, this is awesome. But so, and then like she does shamanic work while she's doing it too, and it's like fucking amazing. It's if you're a lazy person but you need this done, find someone who does both of those things.
Yeah.
I know, but like I just want to fucking wallow and suffer in it. I think it's just you gotta. It's just like any goal. Like if you've ever like try to quit anything or lose weight or do anything. You just have to decide that you're going to commit to it, and like you just have to try every day. It's
Yeah.
like a battle, but like you gotta, and it's not shaming yourself for it. It's just being like, all right, I don't fucking want this anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a part of us to just not want to like make that decision. Like we have a hard time making decisions at times, and that prolongs suffering. Instead of saying, okay, this is a decision I'm taking and I'm moving with it, and I don't know what's the other side of this, but I accept that. I don't need to look at the what if. I don't need to understand anything except for trust in this decision that I'm making.
Yeah, but so how much of this do you really believe in divine timing?
I mean, yes and no. I think like
I don't know, man.
you don't know.
I go back and forth. Again, this is the Libra in me. I really have no real opinions. I just have more questions. I mean, like, fuck. So, because if it's real, then nothing really fucking matters. I don't really even need to get up and work today because there's a balance, right? Of like you got to do some shit,
No,
but
you have to. You have to do stuff. Like nothing will just come to you like that. But yeah, I think it's real in a sense where it's like if sometimes if two people are not able to be in each other's lives, then they just won't be for the time being until they're both ready. And I think I still recognize that I still get very triggered by some things in my connection that I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not ready to fit, like maybe I'm just not there. And
yeah.
the day that will come that I am there, maybe something will change. I think divine timing is just like it's another word for just faith, like right? Like you just have to believe, like you're unconditionally believing that if it's meant for you, it'll be there. That's it. And you don't get to choose when or how or why, which is the things that we love to question the most. Why is
Yeah.
it happening? When is this going to happen? It's just like, just trust that it will come and it will. How many things have happened in your life where you're like, oh, okay, this is cool. Like I stumbled onto this and I'm ready for it and I know I can do it. And and then what's not meant for you, you're just like, okay, I think I think we go back, we're like, wow, how did I ever think that was for me? And like that's the type of logic that we have.
Yeah. I agree with that statement. My faith is definitely a big part of this. I just think it's like I I don't know. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and of course I had a big family funeral, so a lot of us were thrown together, and you see a lot of your dynamics play out in family stuff, and you're like, oh, okay. So like my Italian side of the family, I had this aha moment after the funeral today. I grew up fighting constantly with everyone. And you just fucking get through it and you make up and you forgive and you move on. And like that was our Curro family motto. And I didn't know if it was an Italian thing or if it was whatever. And then when I was at that funeral, I left and I was talking to my son about it. I'm like, and I love my people, don't get me wrong. Like I love them hard, but we're also fucking rude to each other. Like you guys think I'm blunt and that I'm like the most loving one out of this group, and people just ignore each other when they are talking about something they don't care about. And I mean a lot of it's ADHD and a lot of us, but we're talking over each other or just walking away if you don't feel like talking to someone anymore. There's no manners or pleasantries, or you don't do anything because it's the kind of right thing to do. You just do what you fucking want all the time and everyone just deals with it. And then you get mad at each other and blow up because someone's acting like an asshole, and then you have to just let it go. And I think it comes out of necessity. Like for me, it's one of my hooks, right? Because it's like, oh, I grew up where everyone was fucking awful to each other. So of course we're going to have to forgive and keep working on it, because you don't have any choice. When you're a little kid, you can't just pick a new family, or when you're you can't pick new sisters or cousins or brothers or grandparents. So I think like that's why my mentality is to stick with every shitty relationship and like drill it into the ground and be like, why are people just leaving? Like why don't we just work on it? Like because I acknowledge that that's my shit. So like it is hard for me with divine timing because I'm like I don't know why people leave or have to stop talking to me. Like I never understand that because I'm like why can't you just fucking disagree with me and tell me I'm being an asshole but still love me and be living with me every day versus I have to remember like most people didn't grow up with families like that maybe, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I get that. I think like a part of it is one recognizing our like how we play out in this dynamic. Like it's not just going to be the other person's fault all the time. Like we need to
Mhm.
come complacent sometimes as well. And then also understanding what where we went wrong with that other person and then going from there. I think if both people are willing to look at their shit, then sure, why not have a conversation and talk things out and try to figure it out. But
But there's plenty of people that grew up in families, and I think you and I tend to gravitate towards them in our romantic lives, where they had a lot of manners and formalities, and so they don't have the vernacular, the bandwidth to handle talking about emotions or stuff like that at all because their family just didn't.
my family never spoke about emotions. So this
No,
they don't talk about
but
it.
you're so good at it.
I because I recognized that it was something that I needed to work on.
Yeah,
Like I I think my whole life I grew up kind of hiding from the world, and then one day I woke up and I was like, I don't want to hide anymore. Like I don't want to hide who I am. I don't want to hide how I feel, and I just kind of I started walking through with like an open heart in a way and being like, this is me. And
yeah,
when one thing got a little bit too close to the heart, I was like, oh, I have an anxious attachment style at times.
yeah,
And then that allowed me to go in and work on that. But it was all because, like, yeah, my family never grew up talking about any of this stuff at all.
yeah,
Even till this day, like, I think the first time my mom said I love you was like literally like 4 years ago. Like,
yeah,
my grandma doesn't say, like, if you tell my grandma I love you, she will not respond back to you. She will just,
yeah. My parents do that sometimes. I think, but my parents both there's a lot of alcohol involved. So it was, and when you're little, you don't realize that people are drunk after 7 p.m. or whatever. So like I got enough of the I love yous during the drinking hours that I didn't realize
yeah.
that I don't get them during the sober. And I still, if I hard press them, like my mom was on the phone the other day and I was like, okay, I'm having a hard day and I love you. I have to like say it. And then she'll like, oh, okay, yeah, I love you too. Like she'll say it. So mine is more like, I, I think it's for me, I realize that they're just really far away, but they mean it. But that's all these avoidant people, that's all any of them are. Like, because I've dated some of them, they mean it, but they're just so far away that they can't access it in their head, you know?
Yeah. And I think, I don't know what you think of this take, but for me, it's like in Middle Eastern culture, there are ways that you have to kind of move through society and through life where it's more so a collective energy. And so you can't just be
Mm,
there like doing things just for yourself. Like that's not how it works. And I think one big like culture shock for me, and when I hear this all over the internet, it's like you can't rely on other people. You have to do this on your own. It's like it breeds such an individualistic mindset where, and I'm not victim, I'm not blaming avoidant people or anxious
yeah,
people, but I'm just saying to someone who can lean a little bit more avoidant, them hearing that can be like, yeah, I should do whatever I want. This is what I want to do. I don't want to talk to anyone, so I'm just gonna be left alone. And then the same for the anxious person could be like, I don't want to work on my anxiety, like I need to be heard, and that's fine. Like that's a need that I have. And so it's like it breeds kind of this mentality of selfishness where you're just walking through the world doing whatever you want to do without any regard for how anyone is gonna feel. And I don't think that's right either. There has
I
to
agree with you. And it circles back to that right relationship thing. And that's in Christianity too. And shaman, you know, like we got to come together as a community.
yeah,
I think, and this is why for me, non-suffering, I grew up with that too because my Italian family is always so close. But then uh, in American society, especially when you get to a certain socioeconomic status, the houses are big. You have physical space between you and your family. You don't share bathrooms. My son's my son barely knows how to share a bathroom with people. Like, you know, when you think about that stuff, it doesn't, it sets people up to not be able to sleep next to each other, not be able to, you know, and that's not the way we're meant to ever be, you know, it is. So yeah, but that goes back to the right relationship thing. We have to be in right relationship with all people. And in my favorite book about attachment theory, that Attached book by Amir Levine, they talk about this, that codependency, it was a teaching that was brought up specifically to help people who are codependent of people with substance abuse or substance alcohol and drug abuse, right? And it's a you can't that's it's a great practice, that codependency speech within that context, but for any other relationship it's not. Like, we're supposed to have healthy codependencies to be in right relationship with others. You think about the traditional marketplaces of like how people used to live, and it's, yeah, you're coming to market with the gifts you bring to the world. When it used to be tangible, you could see it, like, I make bread, I make cheese, I make textiles, and then you're trading, and you're all showing up in relationship. If you only know how to make textiles, how are you ever going to eat, right?
Yeah, and it's that thing where it's like it's okay to understand that you need people. You're not born to walk this earth alone and do everything all by yourself. We all need help, and we all need to accept that asking for help is not wrong or bad or shameful. And I think it was a big thing for me because always I'm more comfortable doing things for other people than I am accepting help. And
Yeah,
so it was one thing that I needed to work on, to be like, okay, why am I kicking into this hyper independent mode? If someone's offering to buy me like a cup of coffee or like make me a sandwich, and I'm just like, no, I'll do it myself. Or like that
yeah,
mentality a couple of years ago, and I switched out of that completely. And I'm like, yeah, if you want to do that for me because you want to, then sure. And I know down the line at some point I'm gonna do something for you, and things
yeah,
will balance out. Like it doesn't have to come with a string attached to it, and it doesn't have to mean anything. It just means like someone wants to make you a sandwich. Cool. And we just accept that. And I feel like it's a gift from, like, I think it signals to the universe that we are ready to receive. Does that make sense?
yeah. It does. I'm really good at receiving. You're right. I didn't used to be. So I think like 3 years ago, I under the guise of working on my divine feminine energy, whatever the fuck that means. But like, you know, that's where I did that work of. I'm good at it now. I think now, and I think I'm in a better place about it. But I think, to circle back to the non-suffering thing, for me, I I know that I want that sense of community, especially in my romantic relationships. And like, for me, I'm dating for marriage. I want more traditional wife role and marriage. Like, and I know that. Like, um, so to be dating someone avoidant who says that I require too much affection, I think that, you know, I think I'm suffering by choosing these emotionally unavailable people who shame me for wanting that right relationship and sense of community and affection from literally a potential husband. When it's not, you know, it's not, I'm not asking for too much. What I'm asking for is within, it's okay. And there's a lid for every pot, and there will be someone who meets your needs. You can't put all your eggs in one basket of this one person just figuring it out, because people are human. And just like I may falter and decide to go do fuck shit tomorrow and burn down my whole life, I'm not going to, but we could potentially. I don't know. It's a lot of, until you get to the point that you both are committed to choosing each other, working on it through no matter what. Like, I just feel like there's suffering for me is like keeping it moving and not dwelling on why one person couldn't do this shit, you know?
I think
Without being mean to them, but
yeah. No, I get it. I think like I tried to make that decision for myself, but I still find myself looping in the thoughts of the what if, instead of just trusting like, okay, if it's meant to be, it will. And it's hard to shift out of that. It's hard not to question why or how or when or if, but it does keep you in suffering. And we have to just recognize that it's a pattern, and that we need to break it. Like that looping thought pattern has to be broken. There's
I
no,
know. So this is why, and you know, this is why I stopped doing collective tarot, right? I'm so on the fence about like I used to do 3 daily reads every day on TikTok and Instagram, and like I think I'm just gonna fucking go back to it. I stopped doing it because I was like, it's unhealthy for people because the wrong people will hear it. But then like, okay, in the on TikTok, you know how it shows you like a year ago today or whatever, it shows you like or on this day, that's what they call it, because it's not just last year. There was a reading from 2 years ago, and I actually reposted it today because it was just funny. It was
yeah,
just funny,
yeah,
and it had some good lessons in there, even if you don't take all the other shit. Like, okay, it said whoever is listening, it said the listener is like gonna hook up with someone they shouldn't tomorrow, but it also said like you're supposed to be focusing on your business, not worrying about this shit. Like there were still some pearls in there, and I almost feel like I should go back to it just because it's to your point, like it's a thing I could do instead of laying around crying in my bed. I can make fun of the shit that's happening, but like people are gonna misuse everything. People are gonna misuse literally everything. People become too addicted to everything that's good for them.
yes. I
So like, why am I trying to keep people from misusing collective tarot? I guess you know.
yeah, I get it. I think I think if you put it out there with the intent of it reaching whoever it needs to for their own stuff and not the wrong people, then you won't get the wrong people watching, right? Like,
But when we talk about non-suffering and we talk about like what you were talking about is just like trusting in divine plans, divine timing, and divine intervention, who am I to decide who it's right for and what it's, you know what I mean? What if it's supposed to touch the wrong people so they can go do some fuck shit and be a villain in someone else's life because they needed that to learn their lesson, to find enlightenment and go help more people, you know?
yeah. Yeah, you never know the ripple of anything really. The ripple of
I think that's why it's so important that like we all need to shine our light and be our weird fucking authentic selves, whatever, without embarrassment. Because like some of the most embarrassing shit I've done and said, I will say, I don't like saying admitting this to people because it doesn't resonate to me. But every day I either get a comment or a message on something I post saying, "Oh my God, you helped me through a breakup 2 years ago," or whatever. And like, just by saying don't fucking text them every day when I used to do that every day, like, thank you. And
and it
I'm just like, what?
does help.
Well, but then you know me well enough behind the scenes to know like so it's I think that's where I have to remember that I never claimed to be an expert. I have always been a person studying, a religious scholar, and I study it all with the intent of trying to heal myself, and I'm sharing my own journey as I go and sharing what I learned. I supposedly am pretty good at channeling some things and doing some shamanic practitioner work of rewriting soul contracts and clearing dark attachments or whatever. And he, I don't even believe in it, but I do believe in it because of the feedback I get and the peace it brings me when other people do it, the work for me. And so it's hard for me as a human to like but to be at home crying, feeling suicidal one day, and then like getting on because I've struggled with mental health since I was 13, and then getting on TikTok and like helping people the next day because it makes me feel like a phony. But I think the truth is I think everyone's trauma and mental health is different. I think when I started learning the shamanic medicine wheel, I thought this is going to be the thing. This is just like everything. This is going to be the thing, and now I won't ever have to feel this pain ever again. When the truth is, your capacity to feel pain equals your capacity to feel joy. And I feel more joy than most people about a lot of shit. I really do. I can be brought to tears over some beauty, and I've had some wonderful shit happen in my life like you would not fucking believe. And so I have to just remember that if we use these tools, like as the self-proclaimed like most depressed person on the planet, I can tell you like I still have a lot of the thoughts and urges and feelings but I know that there'll be like a wave and they'll pass because I have the tools to mitigate and get through them so that I can be around for the more joyous times, if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
like I have to remember that maybe just telling people that is enough because that's me. That's the way God made me. That's what I was made to say. I have literally nothing else to offer people besides my stories. I don't have any advice. You know what I mean?
yeah, I get it. I think as long as you're standing in your authenticity, then things will work out the way that they're supposed to.
Always, but I just mean like using that story for the greater. I think that's all anyone's supposed to do. Like, and I think that's why I get so grossed out by all these people that are now life certified life coaches, or I just call bullshit on all of them because I could put on a really pretty face and tell you I got all the answers.
No one does.
I just think it's a scam. And I don't know if it shows up in my feed all the time just to stop me from going that direction because it's so easy, especially when people are throwing money at you to be like, "Oh, yeah, I do know what I'm talking about." I made a TikTok yesterday. I don't know if have you seen those themes of like the I made three of them yesterday because it's my new favorite where that song's in the background and it's like my favorite animal is. Have you
No,
seen that? My
no.
favorite animal is, and it's like, but then you make fun of yourself, and so it's you in the background. My favorite animal is me when I thought I was a twin flame expert. Cause like, what the fuck, Angela?
I mean,
There, I knew nothing. I was looking back. I went looking through my phone for videos from 2021 so that I could like put some of them in the background of that. And I was listening to what I was saying, and I'm like, where was this information getting from me? Yeah, okay, it was channeled, it was divine. I was like obsessed with an alcoholic situationship who's banging like 20 other girls and doing coke all the time, and I had no fucking clue. And I thought I was just home praying about it, talking about it on TikTok, like I knew what the fuck was happening. It wasn't a learning lesson, and did he and I finally figure that shit out? Yes, but like when I saw what it really was, I was like, Jesus Christ, why was it? That's why I try to help all of you guys to be like, trust me, when you the things you don't know are going on when you're not talking to someone. If you knew what the reason they're not telling you usually about themselves or about their lives is because when you learn what they are, you will be like, I don't want like this person. I it's always how it turns out.
I don't know. I think a part of me like refuses to believe that though.
I know, but I'm telling you, this is going back to the very first thing we said that everyone has to learn from themselves. I am telling you, as both sage and seer, because part of this is I've seen enough shit to know, like, trust me. Once you get after 40, you just I know 20 years from now I'll be saying even more, but like you've seen enough shit to just know how shit works. Like people are not that different.
Yeah.
There's if someone is whatever you're not seeing, if you're romanticizing it, don't because they're probably, if it was great, they'd be posting it everywhere all over social media. Honestly,
Yeah.
most people.
Those people. Yeah. Yeah.
And some people don't, but like anything beautiful people are doing nowadays, it's and so the people that aren't on social media, they don't post, they don't, they're you. Well, that's not. This sounds arrogant now, but like in this modern age, when it's a person that you know that's on social and does post stuff from time to time, like they're probably just sitting in their own suffering, just like we were talking about. That's all they're doing, whatever that looks like to them.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like this is a larger question, but like, why does anyone post anything? You know, it can like, I
Yeah,
think like there's, I don't know.
I think it depends on. I always think about the Hierophant card in tarot, and remember when Jose Luis taught you something about someone about like he was talking about someone and said like she doesn't even understand who she is, or what were his words he used? He doesn't understand her moral compass or her ethos, or it's the Hierophant.
Yeah, the
What?
compass.
So I think people who their moral compass is and um who they are, who we each are in life guides that we do, our ethos. So like my content is meant to help. I use it to try to share my joy on the days I have it, and sometimes to share my pain so that people can learn. I think this is where humans design and astrology help me, and journeying to like know myself enough to know I know why I do everything I do.
Yeah.
Now, if I start posting thirst traps, then we know that Ange has her eye on someone.
That
What?
lost it at that point. You've lost the
I'm cooked. No, I mean, I've done it, but I know that when I do it, it's because then I'm trying to entice someone's attention because that works. I mean, like, I think we all know, and that's the same way when you see someone like break up with someone, then start posting more, you're like, oh, that's, and then when they stop doing it, it's because they're sending that stuff to one person.
oh. Hmm.
It's true.
I don't know. I don't do that, so I don't know.
Oh, I do it. Not anymore. I mean, I've been on this abstinence shit for what, like, I don't know when to say that I started it. So theoretically, well, I guess it's been at least like my last boyfriend, Jake, we were dating for 3 months and then we broke up on Christmas, right? And so I clearly haven't been with anyone, but I've definitely been doing abstinence since him.
Yeah.
And but before too, because I wasn't like hooking up with people, I wasn't in strong romantic relationships like that I thought were heading towards marriage. So I don't know. So I don't do any of that shit anymore, but I did for a while.
I don't know.
It's, I mean, like, I guess, are there people that don't do that? So you're saying you just quietly sit at home and pine away after people instead of post? No, you post your own version of thirst traps. You just, they're not thirsty because that's not your style.
You think so?
Well, you would never be like in a tube top on, with a country song in the background. What?
I,
That's me.
I might surprise you with that one day.
God damn it. Do it when you're visiting Wisconsin, though. It's like, what's the like, I don't know, third coast kid, like Arab Toronto girl equivalent of the Wisconsin is country song about Jesus and healing and while dressed like a whore.
I think perfect soundtrack.
There's like cultural equivalents here of thirst traps?
I don't know. I feel like no. I mean, what would they be? Like showing off your
Should we review some of my former ones from prior years?
fitness?
No, it's
Didn't see
the
my latest ones.
I know I don't follow anyone. I don't follow you on TikTok. I should. All right, like here. Okay, just I'm wearing Adidas slides. Oh my God, I'm just like looking. Some of these are so pathetic. I don't want to show them. So some of them are so thirsty. I can't. Okay, here's one I posted. Like, what was this? I remember posting this. I'm like in a swimsuit. I'm in a swimsuit. For those of you who are not watching the video on YouTube, you're missing out. I was like out tanning in the backyard and just came and like made a sad face. And this one I would categorize. I was at a Packers game and it's a bathroom mirror selfie. So in Wisconsin, like that really does it for the redneck type guys that I date. Cause I'm like in booty shorts. This is not just at Lambeau Field, it's in the VIP section bathrooms upstairs in the boxes and stuff. And I'm not wearing very much clothes. I don't know. Those were mine. And then, you play a song about like Jesus and love in the background, a country song. Really, some Chris Stapleton, really get him going.
I don't know who Chris Stapleton is.
I know. That's what I'm telling you, though. That's what you would if you were here. No, I'm just kidding. But we all have our own equivalent. I'm not going to do it anymore. I would rather be home doing my adult coloring book and burning incense at this point and writing prayers.
We're done with that life.
I know, but that's the non-suffering. It's the embracing, healing, and letting go of the pain. It's making the healthy choices, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so where do we land on how religion fits into this? Do we cover that whole thing? Like before we wrap up, I just want to make sure that we got that part of it.
So I think yeah, there's like a sunnah that basically says that through hardship we often find God. And I think when our soul comes to this earth, we kind of lose sight of that and we lose sight of like worship and faith and all of that. And so the only way, or for some people, the only way to
Yeah.
God again is through some sort of hardship, which I mean, look at me too, the most person I'm never religious ever in my life, and then go through this hardship and I'm like I'm closer to
Same.
that and yeah, so I think that resonates with me on some level to be like I get why I have to go through that, but I think it's important to like to minimize the suffering that you're feeling. It's important to recognize what your purpose is in this life. Like you need to know that. You need to know your vision. You need to know why you're here. And so in that lecture that Dr. Amr Suleiman, he was saying that before you question why things are not going in the way that you think that they should, question why you are here in the first place. And
Mm,
that was a kind of like an aha moment for me because I'm like, yeah, I think that my life is supposed to go in a certain way, and I think I need to try to control the outcome or force something. Well, I'm not questioning what am I doing here in the first place? Like, what is my purpose? Why am I here? And for a lot of us, the purpose is you can find your purpose through religion or spirituality or and find comfort in that. If you don't know anything else that you're supposed to do, then at least you know that you can be a good person who has right relationship with other people, you know?
yes. That's so. I think that was the best way you could have said it. I love that, Farah.
Yep.
I'm literally writing it down. Yeah. So before you question why things aren't working out for you the way you want to, question why you're here in the first place. I think that's where we leave it.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Farah. I love you. I love you.
Okay. Thank you.
I will talk to you later.